Hello everybody and welcome to the Showcast, a series of candid conversations from film festivals and film markets everywhere, brought to you by The Film Verdict and hosted by yours truly, Matt Micucci. Thank you for joining us on this latest episode of our podcast coverage of the 2023 San Sebastián International Film Festival in Spain. Today we're delighted to share an extraordinary conversation with Isabel Herguera, a true luminary of the world of animation. She's making her highly anticipated feature debut with Sultana's Dream, a film inspired by the feminist utopian sci-fi short story of the same name, penned by Begum Rokeya at the dawn of the 20th century and exploring the mythical Ladyland. The narrative of the film follows the journey of Inés, a young artist, and draws from Herguera's personal experiences and passions. During our discussion, Herguera provides insights into her multi-year undertaking, the influential moments and stories that shaped her film, and the profound impact of animation as an artistic medium. We also delve into her artistic influences, the portrayal of women in media, and what continues to make Rokeya's original short story an enduring and resonant masterpiece. So fire up on Audiotini and listen to the audio waves as they fly through the air. This is the Showcast. Isabel, welcome to the Showcast. It's lovely to meet you.
Lovely to meet you, Matt.
Isabel, you are presenting the film Sultana's Dream here at the festival, which I watched, and it was spectacular, visually and intellectually. But I want to start off with an icebreaker question and talk about the medium of animation. When did you become interested in it first?
In animation or in the film?
In animation.
In animation, I became interested and absolutely fascinated. In 1987, I was doing video art and conceptual art installations, performance. And just by a friend of mine asked me to assist him in a workshop he was giving to children and animation. And I found the medium so absolutely direct, natural in me, and a tool I could use for artistic expression, which I had not an end. It was all of a sudden I felt that so many ideas came so naturally, and this was the time. Yeah.
In the movie, one of the lines that got to me, and I know that a lot of it is inspired by your own life and personal experience. You said something very interesting, or the main character says something very interesting, that she can't dream, and so she dreams through the dreams of others, something along those lines. Is that true? Because sometimes we associate animation with dreams, and I like.
Yeah.
That connection.
I dream a lot, huh? This is not, there is certain aspects of the journey, which I took and placed it in the film, but the character is totally fiction. But what I found is that for certain young generation of today is the lack of passion or dreams or focused on something. And this is what I felt the character needed, that she's unable to think or dream her own dreams, but she holds onto the dream of others. And it doesn't have to do with the medium itself, it has to do with the character.
And we'll talk about that maybe a little later on, but just sticking with the theme of animation first, you said that you dream a lot. So visually, do your dreams inspire you? Do they inspire some images or even the style that we then see on the screen?
Yeah, not so much the dream, but the painting, yeah, and the act of painting. While you approach a white canvas or a white piece of paper, sometimes I do not know where to start, so I just make some dirt, yeah, throw some wash with ink, and the wash, this organic foam, is the one that suggests the next step to take, yeah. So in that sense, is the images grew up out of this unconscious system or methodology of starting with a wash and let's see where the next picture is going to take me. Always taking in consideration that the route map was there, yeah, a path. It's not a fixed script, but a path is there.
That's interesting because so it's not only about the final image, but also about the creation of the image itself. It's interesting that you say that because the style of the animation in the movie, sometimes we see the images appearing on the screen as if they were being created on the moment. That's part of the reason why, I guess, right?
This is because of the artistic process. I had to impregnate the whole visual display, yeah, in a way. And this is very important for me because the film is created and that manner.
Let's talk about Sultana's dream now. And I understand that this was a multi-year project. It took a long time for it to come to life. But how did it begin? What was the starting point?
The starting point was I was in India in 2012. I used to spend a lot of time in India. I was in India at that time. It was like raining and I was like looking for shelter in an art gallery that they were like showing Gaunt art, which is like tribe from like northeast India, which I'm very interested in, the folk arts. So I stepped into the art gallery and I saw a book, and it called my attention that the cover was depicted a woman that was like piloting a spaceship. I came closer and I read Sultana's Dream, feminist utopia, written by Begum Rokeya in 1905, a woman who grew up in a very conservative environment, and that had like very like limited access to formal education. And she wrote this like short story in 1905. And I thought, wow, this is like incredible. And while like discovering the story, she was like talking about Ladyland, a place where women had the knowledge and men were ignorant. And therefore women had the power. So I thought, well, this is like such a paradox, and in a way, I thought this is like the film that I want to do the next, or the project or something. I knew that I had in my hand something that I wanted to work on.
So this is a simple follow-up question, but do you feel now, the contemporary times, now is the right time to revisit Sultana's Dream? And what do you think makes it so modern, feel so modern?
Because the story is like so radical in a way. It was like very appealing, the fact that what Rokeya does is like she allows you to look at yourself from the point of view of the opposite gender. So once you are into this like dynamic of like seeing yourself through the eyes of a man, it's like then you realize the inequalities, then you realize what you have been learning and been educated to on certain traditions. I was very conscious from that moment onwards that this is like a journey that I had to take, and it took me like 10 years to, reach the end. But at the same time, I learned so much, and my consciousness also like grew.
I would love to know more about that, but also I wanted to talk about another aspect of the film that I guess stood out to me, that it also discusses or explores the representation of women. And gender in general, I guess. So do you tend to be critical of the way in which women, but gender, again, in general, is represented in the media, in cinema, and so on?
Right now, it's like gender is like a stagnant boxes, and it's like very limited and defined. And I believe there should be like much more openness in that sense. It's like, our like gender preferences should be not that close and stagnant, but we should be able to like move from one in a very natural manner.
I mean, fluid, more fluid.
Yeah, in a very natural manner, in a very like, normal way of understanding.
And do you think that things are changing now? Is that your perception?
Little by little, yeah. Little by little things are changing. And little by little, like, women are like feeling also their power, and they are like, and I believe that in all of us, there is a desire of like not having to look at numbers and representation numbers in 20 or in 30 years, that there would be as many like film directors, female or male, or like gender fluid or whatsoever, but we should not be like just statistics. So
I mentioned earlier that this film took quite a while for it to, be finalized and finished, and it was a multi-year project. So this is again a simple question, but why did it take so long for it to finally be completed?
I come from the short films, and animation short films is like head or whoever like is doing animation short films, they know you have a total control over your world. And also this like artisan, this like painterly artistic look, it was like, it had to, be at a certain point, control. So either you go very fast, but you rely on a more like standardized way of working, or you go slow and you keep this artisan look. And so I rather would go slow and keep it the way I wanted, than to go fast and, lose control over, on a film that is not, it doesn't follow exactly into the industrial pipeline. And that was my fear.
Well, what does that mean? Doesn't
And
follow.
that doesn't follow in the sense it's like not that all the like throughout the process there is like places in which there is like spaces for improvisation to take place, yeah, and not absolutely locked and defined. For example, during the animatic changes animation, it's like throughout the process you have to like lock all the phases, yeah,
Right.
of production,
Yeah.
because otherwise it's very expensive. And for me, it was like too suffocating in terms of like creativity to have to lock everything. So the day I had to like leave some rooms for it to breathe and to change and to like keep this like organic kind of growth, like when you paint a painting.
And does that also mean that the narrative then you wouldn't necessarily call traditional?
Yeah,
and all that stuff?
exactly. Narrative was also not traditional in the sense that we had a path and we had a script, but the script like grew out of images sometimes, translation of like images into words. Sometimes they grew out of like soundscapes that we have like been recording in the place where the scene took place. Sometimes it grew out of words. And so it was like a script that was like very organic, and it was like a wild tree in which you give it form along the way.
That's very interesting, actually, because in a way, it sort of represents a more artisanal approach to animation, one that maybe is not talked about as often compared to the more commercial style. But speaking of the aesthetics, you mentioned that art was something that really influenced you early on. And so I'm a bit of an art nerd, or, probably don't know as much about art as you, but like, who would you say are some artists that were defining and very important while you were trying to find your voice, I guess?
Well, there are so many, and they come from all areas of art, from like film. And in film, I can mention from the guys from Casa Lobo, Joaquín Cocina, or like Florence Miallier, or like De Sica, or Fellini, or Satyajit Ray, to like literature, which I can mention like Ismat Chungtai, Begum Rokeya Hossein, Arundhati Roy, to painting. And in painting, I can go from like Julian Schnabel to Giotto. It's like, there's like a
So
large, and also like the attitude of like certain artists, which, for me, they are like, maybe their work doesn't have anything to do with my work, but the attitude of the ones that were like my teachers, like Nam Yoon Paik, or like, artists that came from very different disciplines, but there is like a very open and free approach to art, which is difficult in animation because animation is very expensive, and therefore, it's the room for freedom is limited when you start with a creative process, but still to maintain that breathing. Yeah.
Since you're an artist and an art fan, a lover of art, so I would love to ask you then, in the contemporary world, what do you see the role of art, and also has that rapport, between the people and art changed over the years?
It's art world is very, very complex. Huh? That's why I do animation, which is like, for me at least, it's much more like playing. Yeah, art world is complex in the sense that artwork is also defined by the market, which you never know where it's going and you never know what is breathing. But art in its sense, it's a sort of like a spiritual mirror of what's going on in the world. And it reflects also the future that is to come. This is for me art. And art is also for me a statement for freedom. And one has to separate what is the world of art, which is recognized by the galleries and the museum, and art in itself. It's like, two separate worlds.
And do you think that the people are still able to connect with art? Because sometimes, we talk about the role of media, how it has changed our perception of the art around us. But how do you feel about that?
Yes, of course. Like pure art, people are able to connect because it touches some kind of a string in our like consciousness or unconsciousness, that like triggers emotion. Then there is the art, which is like, which is in the market, or which is like, on the defined by the art criticers. That is like can touch everyone or can touch only those that have the information or only those that are like, they know the trends of the art. So it's very complex world.
Another aspect of Sultana's Dream I wanted to bring up, and maybe this will be the closing point, is that it touches on different traditions, different countries, different eras, and so on. So how are you able to kind of condense all of that in the film? Is it a personal reaction to it, or is there a work of research behind it?
There is a lot of research behind Sultana's Dream, years of research, of having a very direct contact with my friends in India, friends and family in India and other parts of the world, and to work closely with everybody who worked in the film, from Upamanyu Bhattacharya, who was the one that did all the animatica, with Blackbird in Mumbai, with Moshumi Bowie, with Sudhanya Dasgupta. There is so many people along the years that have been involved in this process and that help us out, giving the form to the Sultana's Dream we are seeing in today.
Yeah. Do you think travel broadens the mind?
Absolutely. Travel is absolutely necessary because it broadens the mind, it broadens our ears, it broadens our eyes, and it brings so much richness and so much peace to ourselves.
So speaking of traveling, this film now is here at San Sebastián, but where will it go to next? Do you know where it will be?
Yes, next it will be going in less than a week, or in 1 week. It will be in Hamburg for the premiere in Hamburg Film Festival, and the week afterwards it would be in Doc Leipzig, and so it will travel around the world, I hope.
That's excellent. Well, I thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Matt.
Well, thank you for checking out our conversation with Isabel Herguera, whose feature film Sultana's Dream was presented in the official selection of the San Sebastián International Film Festival this year. As for us cinephile, we will return with more conversations from San Sebastián and beyond shortly. But in the meantime, why not check out some of our other Showcast episodes from this prestigious annual event as well, courtesy of The Film Verdict. Till the next time, this is Matt Micucci signing off. See you soon.